Hey, another fine day and an hour to talk power. This is the new show, Power Hour, week 3 of 12. And this show has been honestly, looking at myself as a coach going, where are my deficiencies? And it is in science of building power, speed, health. Like, that's a weakness of mine. And I think that it's okay, absolutely, to admit weaknesses, because honestly, all weaknesses are, for the most part, are areas in your life you haven't focused on yet. And the truth is, you usually focus on only a couple at a time. And I haven't focused on this yet. And I'm excited to be focusing. I've learned a ton already on power, on strength and conditioning. And I wanted to learn it not from people with opinions, because we all have them, but from experts, guys that are certified. And my next certified guy, certified strength coach right here with us, is George Adams, head strength conditioning coach, probably, and we'll let you introduce what your official title there is, but at MRA, which is Madison Ridgeland Academy, beautiful private school just outside Jackson, Mississippi. I was fortunate enough to go down there about a month ago and visit your head football coach, Herbert Davis, who's a very successful coach, and boy, is he good. And I just love listening to him speak, man. He's just got that good old boy accent. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to shut up for a moment and turn it over to George. George, kind of introduce yourself and, tell us what you do there at MRA.
Like you said, I appreciate you having me. My name is George Adams. I'm the head strength and conditioning coach at Madison Ridgeland Academy. I'm fortunate enough I don't have to teach class. I don't have to coach a sport. I am purely just a strength coach. So I can focus all my efforts that way and not have to spread thin like a bunch of coaches have to.
Now, I know that most strength guys they're always jacked because strength is what they love to do. But do you ever feel the pressure, like, I gotta be jacked because this is my job?
I think that gets said a lot, like the look the part thing, which I don't disagree with. But looking the part of a performance coach and a bodybuilding coach, I think, are two different things.
Sure.
I want to look, if I want my kids to look like athletes, like, I should probably look like an athlete and be able to sprint and be able to run and be able to do all these things that I'm asking them to do.
Good.
On top of the lifting aspect.
Now, you're going to become an old man one day. So take care of yourself so that when the day comes, and even when you can't sprint anymore, it's believable when they say, once upon a time, when you tell them, once upon a time, kids, I could get up and go. Just trust me. Well, Coach, super excited to have you. You're talking today about Olympic-style lifting for a middle school and high school athlete. I love hearing that. I love hearing the word middle school in there as well. And we've come a long way in the last 20 years as far as like myths of lifting, right? I mean, even 20 years ago, how many sports still considered lifting taboo? So we've come a long way since then, but we're still always fighting it. And I know certainly in the middle school, it hasn't trickled down in many schools to the middle school. So tell me for a moment, how involved are you with the middle school?
Say that one more time.
How involved are you with the middle schoolers with lifting?
So our junior high is considered 8th and 9th grade, and then we have a 7th grade only team. So I had the 7th graders 3 days a week over the summer, and I was able to start with those guys as 6th graders in the spring semester before quarantine hit.
Yeah.
But then our now 8th graders have been with me for a year. And so, like, it's one of those slow, like, building block type processes. And it's year to year. When I first got here compared to now, those 8th graders who have been with me for a year and those 9th graders who were 8th graders last year. So much improvement just on how they're moving. And my now 9th graders, they constantly want to push weight. But I'm like, hey, guys, easy. There's going to be a time for it.
Yeah.
Just back it down a little bit. So, but I get them 3 to 4 days a week. My 8th and 9th graders, 7th graders, I get them 3 days a week. So it works nice.
Well, last question before we get started. Did you decide to go into strength and end up in the world of schools, or did you want to go into schools and then choose strength?
I wanted to be a physical therapist, And ended up having a pretty significant hip injury my sophomore year of college. And through talking with my PT, decided like I didn't want to tell people to stand up and sit down in a chair for 5 minutes. Just wasn't what I was interested in doing. So then I thought I'd be a football coach, and I took a strength and conditioning class my fall semester, my senior year. I was like, I like this stuff. Like
Yeah.
this could be something. And then it kind of took off from there.
Okay. And where did you go to college?
Went to college at Methodist University in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Fayetteville, North Carolina. Okay, man. Well, good. Well, without further ado, before we let you get going, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. And George Adams is going to coach us up.
Hey, my name is Wade DeVries, head football coach at Roxana High School down near St. Louis in Illinois. The Chief Pigskin Online Clinic has been huge for us this year. The amount of content that's available on there is exceptional. And having been a speaker on it, the number of contacts that I've been able to make with coaches from around the country has been unbelievable. I couldn't recommend it more.
All right, we are back, and Coach Adams, take it away. Coach us up. Share your screen. Can't wait to hear from you.
All right, sounds good. Let's get it rolling. See that all right? Perfect. All right, so Olympic style lifting in the middle and high school athlete. We'll kind of break this down a little bit, build into it. I'm going to go through some definitions real quick. I think it helps just so everybody's on the same page. A clean and jerk, I think we've all seen it in true Olympic style lifting, from the floor to the shoulder, and then a violent movement overhead to where it ends, the bar ends over your head. Typically, this is broken down. I'll get into that in just a second. The snatch, same thing, except it's one movement going from the floor, taking the barbell completely overhead. And there's a little breakdown. This image is from Whiteboard Daily. And this dude does amazing diagrams that breaks everything down super simply. And this is probably my favorite snatch diagram out there. Just really good teaching position. But like I said, violent movement, taking the bar straight overhead from the floor. Now, this is where we'll start to break it down a little bit. I just want to get on the same page. So Olympic lifting is the sport. It's competed at the national level, international level, Olympics, Pan Ams, Worlds. And it is their sport. We're going to get really, really good at the clean and jerk. And we're going to get really, really good at the snatch. And that is their performance measure. Very similar aspects when you try to push it into sport, where you're getting a large force production. Got to have that large rate of force development, a violent hip extension movement, trying to generate as much power as you can. A lot different than power lifting, the squat, bench, dead, just moving as much weight as you can. But typically it's a little slower. Like when you watch these guys, violent movement. A huge difference I see in sports, we break it down way more. And I think we tend to focus on the clean and the snatch more so than the jerk. And I'd love to get into one day where we're working that. But for me, I haven't figured out an effective way to teach the jerk to kids yet, that we're still working through to where it makes sense to them. So yeah, kind of confusing to me. They pick up the snatch way faster than they pick up a jerk. So, but being able to separate those movements out is a little different when we're using the Olympic movements to increase sport performance. So, I mean, the stud down there at the bottom, Saquon, I think that was his freshman year. That went on ESPN, cleaned 405 as a freshman. That dude up top there is CJ Cummings, big up-and-coming dude, actually out of Georgia. He's 15 years old in that picture. That's at Junior Worlds. So, I mean, he is a stud in the Olympic lifting world. But if I want to play football, I'd rather have Saquon. So just a little better. And then it's, like it says there, the skill versus sport aspect. I equate it similar to a baseball swing. There's a high level of skill in a baseball swing. There's a high level of skill in a clean and jerk for Olympic lifting. As strength conditioning coaches or human performance coaches, athletic performance coaches, we're trying to pick and choose these aspects we're trying to train. And while somebody's clean may not be perfect, you can look at it there. Saquon is not in a perfect rack position. He's a little bit wide. You can probably break that down as much as you want to. But in the end, he had a violent hip extension in the video, and he had an incredible stand up with 405 pounds. So I think we get into this thing of, well, is it a hang clean, or is it a hang power clean, or is it? And I think that's all terminology that use it with your team. Growing up in the football world, you always heard power clean was pulling from the floor. It didn't matter, but like get into it and you learn it a little bit. And a power clean, sure, you're pulling it from the floor, but we're catching it up in that high position, up in that power position. A hang clean, we're starting from the hang. And I think we as strength coaches, sometimes we get caught up on terminology, and instead of saying like, what are we trying to train, and let's go after that attribute. So my thought process with my guys, a lot of the pictures in here, my now 8th graders, just the way with quarantine and stuff that we have to lift, I don't really have time with my varsity groups to be able to video and take pictures of them. Like varsity football right now, we got 10 minutes in the weight room. So it is all gas and we're just flowing through. But when I started thinking about it, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, Andrew Christie, and we kind of started throwing this around of why don't we lift or Olympic lift with the younger kids? So thought process kind of came from like, we're okay with young kids sprinting and jumping. Like you're exhibiting high amounts of force with those movements. We're okay with them playing sports. We're okay with them playing football, soccer, basketball. Up north, you're cool with them playing hockey and lacrosse, and everybody's okay with that. But when you say, hey, we're going to hang clean a 7th grader, everybody looks at you kind of crazy. And I think it's because the old school mentality of like, let's just move as much weight as physically possible. The old like bigger, faster, stronger mentality of it doesn't matter what it looks like, we're going to lift a ton of weight. And understandably, I know there's people that have gotten hurt doing cleans. We see these videos of kids on Instagram or Twitter, ESPN shares them. You're like, it's cringing watching these kids try to clean, but they've also never been taught how correctly. And I think that's the biggest thing. When you talk about like lifespan development, kids learn so much and it's so easy for them to pick stuff up. You tell a kid to learn a second language, and if they learn it all the time, it's super easy for them. And then us as adults, we try to learn a second language and it's super hard. We don't know what's happening. So it's a little bit of that sponge mentality of like, these kids will suck it up. To them, like they're a blank slate. And if we can teach them these movements now, it's less work that we're going to have to do. If you're in a setup like I am, where you have the middle school and the high school, it's a lot easier, in my opinion, down the road if you can teach and hone in on these guys the younger they are. We're very fortunate. We have 15-pound bars, so we have the training bars, we have the training plates. We're very fortunate in that aspect. We have PVC pipes that we drill with, but I think the earlier we can introduce these things, the better off we'll be long term. Then I say it all the time, a couple variations, but throw them in a smoker, throw them in a crock pot, and like let it work. So throwing them in a smoker, cook it low and slow, pull that brisket off that's been cooking for 16 hours, and we are on point. There's no need to rush it. My kids, and I talked with them about this almost ad nauseum when we first started this process, is like, we're going to do the same thing a lot. and we're going to do it often because, again, going back, we're okay with kids throwing 100 pitches a day or 100 footballs a day. We're okay with them jumping all the time. But all of a sudden, we're not okay with them lifting. It's kind of the skill development aspect confuses me. But when it's done correctly and it's done in a repetitive way, they start picking up on it faster. And then I have a video in here later that happened the other day, but they start feeling the movements and they know why they messed up. So when an 8th grader can look at me and say, hey, I did this, that's why I missed it. I'm like, perfect. I'm all about that because then I can focus on kids that are struggling picking it up. Like it says there, basic, not boring. I'm big on that. My varsity guys, they say the same thing. Like, coach, we clean all the time. Yep. And we're going to keep cleaning all the time. The more I can get your hand on the barbell, because working at the college level before last year, we would get kids and they had no idea what to do. And I was always like, if I ever go to the high school level, my kids will come out knowing how to clean, knowing how to snatch, knowing how to squat. So then I don't want to be that high school strength coach where a kid goes off to college and they're like, what have you been doing for the last 4 years, you know? So, and then repetition, and then repeat all of that again. My programming for those kids, my middle school kids last year, it didn't change up until quarantine when we had to go. I think it was March 13th for us is when we got removed from school. Like we did the same thing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday we'd work some speed stuff. But those kids are out playing all the time. Like they're out throwing routes after school. So like I don't have to necessarily worry about them getting the sprint work or the conditioning they need. Then I kind of look at it. I know the 10,000 hour rule has kind of been debunked and formed different ways, but that same type of process of like the more we can do something, the better we're going to be at it. Kind of like the squat-tober mentality that Aaron Osmond does. Like if you do it, your squat's going to get better and you're going to get stronger because you have more so perfected that movement. And I think that's super important and not rushing these kids. I'll go into it in just a second. But now how do we get there? One, it was just hey, we're going to see what happens. And I had emails from parents. I had questions from coaches. And I'm all about the questions. And I'm like, hey, I'm not going to hurt your kid. We're going to do this safely. And I think that's the number one thing. Just make sure it's done safely. And if you don't feel comfortable teaching it, then don't. I think that's a big problem too, is like we think, oh, we have to do this. We have to do this. We have to do this. And it's like, do what works for you. These kids, I'm able to break it down. I have them for 52 minutes or something like that. So I'm able to break it down super simply, super slow. And we're able to focus on details. And this is probably a lot. People may not agree with this a whole lot, but we start with our hands on the bar. Something straight. We start with PVC pipe some, but like I said, we're fortunate enough to have those 15-pound bars. Let's put that 15-pound bar in your hand because then we have to learn what that feels like. That snatch grip is terrible on your hands. And my kids all the time, they're like, Coach, look at this. Look at this. I'm getting calluses. I'm like, I'm glad. They come to me after school. They're like, Coach, my hands are tired. Good. Like, you were starting to build something up in your hands. But the faster and more often you can get your hands on the bar, the better off they're going to be in the long run. Again, that's one of my 8th graders. That's him with our Alico bar. That's our 45-pound bar. And this was during our on-call sequence, our little complex that we do. And he handled it. And I tell him, readjust your grip as you need to. Like, readjust it, but make sure that thing's in your hand. Teach the positions first. Our complex work now, we go RDL, shrug, jump shrug, high pull, and then whatever the Olympic movement is, whether it's a snatch or a clean. But for the first 2 weeks, all we did was RDL and shrug. And it wasn't a jump shrug. We just legitimately teaching them to pull their shoulders up to their ears. And that's what, like, teach the positions as often as you can. And they got bored. And I'm like, they're like, coach, I just want to clean. I just want to snatch. I got you. We're going to give it 2 more weeks and we'll be in it. I promise. And that comes with that repetitiveness of it is tough. And like I said, I had them 3 days a week. On Thursdays, I'd let them go outside, like go play something. We played volleyball, we played frisbee, we played football, we played kickball. Just go do something else to kind of break up the monotony. But in the weight room, it is going to be very basic at this point. Rep them all the time. I know I keep saying that, but that probably goes along with teaching the positions. And with them, I don't prescribe any weight for them. Like the kid in the picture there, he's really proficient. He's like, hey, coach, can I try to clean? And I'm like, let's not do that. And I remember at one point he had 95 and was like, hey, coach, do you think I can snatch this? I was like, probably not, but you can probably clean it. So trying to like still give them a aspect of progression and then being able to see, hey, I'm getting stronger. I may not be able to snatch 95, but I know I can clean it now. Complex work is big. Just reinforcing those movement patterns. Our varsity guys, there's an example later from my first week here, but we started complexing. And then some sort of violent hip extension every day. Now, like with these kids, I'm able to get them right now. But over the summer, we were so limited with all the protocols from COVID that we got to a truly Olympic lift 1 day a week. 1 day out of 3, but one day we did weighted jumps. One day we would do some sort of jump shrug, but to actually catch a clean, we were only able to accomplish once a week. But I was more concerned with them getting that violent hip extension aspect throughout the week. So this was my first week here, and this is kind of backing up that do something every day in complex work. So this was my first day with this team. We're going to see where we're at. Now, these cleans that I saw a year ago to now are 100% different. They were a little bit of the like, hey, coach, I just want to lift heavyweight. And wasn't the prettiest thing I saw, but coaching it throughout the summer was able to get better as it went on. Day 2, we did a complex. Again, just get it in their hands, let them do the movements. We clean pooled day 3 from the floor, and then we did another complex on Friday or on Thursday, trying to get them in the habit of it. And then my varsity kids they would come and be like, hey, coach, I bet we're cleaning today, aren't we? Yep, you know it. Like, you know what's coming. And them joking about it, and they'll say it all the time, like, oh, I bet we're cleaning today even now. But then they know like what's coming and they know what's it good at. They try to get better at it. You know it's sticking with them when they're able to repeat back to you. Like at the end, they know I'm going to say hydrate, sleep, eat. To a point now, when we come up and we talk at the end of a lift, I don't have to say it anymore. They come up and they're like, we need to hydrate, we need to eat, we need to sleep. And I'm like, y'all are, at least it's sticking, you know. With the middle school athletes specifically, the way we kind of built these patterns, same stuff I said, something every day, the complex work. But the way we built it in with them is the on-call stuff was huge for us learning positions. Like I said, we would RDL and we would RDL and RDL and RDL because that seems to be the hardest movement for kids to learn. They squat pretty well. They jump pretty well. They do a push-up pretty well, but a hinging movement is super hard for them to learn. So on a call, an up call, a down call, whether that's with a PVC pipe or one of our training bars, let them do that. And like I said, that was 2 weeks of just yelling in the weight room, up and down, and correcting little positions and slowing everything down. And something I learned that kind of helped was let them go a little bit. So I'd say, hey, I'd walk them through it all on a call, even if we went all the way to the catch. Then I'd say, all right, we're going to do the RDL, the shrug, and the jump shrug. and I would let them go on it, and they would start to feel it themselves and kind of learn it. And then I'd slow them down again and reteach it a little bit and then let them finish up. The slowing them down part, because they want to go. I mean, they just want to do it the way the high school kids do it or do it the way they saw on Instagram. And it's all well and good, but they got to learn these positions the right way. To a point, now we're overhead squatting with the 45-pound bars. We're snatching with the 45-pound bars because they took the time to understand what they are supposed to feel like. And then that's that bottom point. Like, let them learn the positions. I think that's the biggest thing, is like not rushing it. It kind of where that art of coaching kind of comes in. With these guys, I had a block, and I'm like, hey, this is how we're gonna work this. But what I thought was gonna take 3 weeks may have taken 6 weeks until I was comfortable with them moving on. Because the last thing I wanted to do was one of these kids hurt a shoulder, hurt a low back, something like that, if I just let them go too soon. So that was a super big thing, is like letting them learn the positions, not just me putting them into those positions. So this is once we would go through the on-call stuff, this is kind of where we would go. So day one, our first position up in that high hip, just letting them jump shrug. They'd come in and they know, hey, we're going to do this complex first, then we're going to get into our lift. Right after that, we would clean right from that first position. We got 4 movements there, and by the time we were done with our warm-up, we would have 45 minutes. So I would tell them on that stuff, I'm like, don't rush it. And if they started rushing it, slow them back down. Hey, we're going to go on a call for this set and make sure we're in the positions we need to be. I think that's a super important thing, them understanding and feeling where they're supposed to be. Because we can coach it all day. We can put our hands on them, position them the way we need to. But if they're not the ones feeling it and messing up and fixing it, they're never gonna learn those positions themselves. A lot of tempo work in our strength stuff. I think that helped a lot. It's not a ton of tempo there, but teaching them how to pause on the bottom of a squat, I think, was huge. Day 2, all we would do is complex. So this ended up being Wednesdays most weeks. All we would do is that complex. And we would go, no matter what, we were going 3 sets on a call. And depending on how much time we had left, I would say, all right, we're going to do 2 more sets. I'm going to turn y'all loose a little bit. Or we're going to do 3 more sets and turn y'all loose. But if it took like the first couple of weeks that we just did this, all we got to get through was 2 or 3 sets on call, because we were taking so much time teaching that. Like I said, we would start with just the RDL and the shrug. And then the next week, I'm like, all right, I think we can jump shrug. But kind of using your coaching eye a little bit and feeling where they're at and kind of a general consensus. Because, you have some kids that are going to pick it up super fast and they're not going to struggle with it at all. And then you're going to have kids that don't understand like how to RDL. There's some of my kids now that still struggle to RDL. And I'm like, that's okay. The majority of ours, we work him by himself and cue him up different ways. But there's a large range of where they're going to be, and being able to, so everybody's getting some work is the biggest thing. And then our second position looks very similar to Monday, or day 1. Our second position was from the top of the knee, teaching them how to move from there, generating that with that counter movement and being able to go a little longer range of motion, generating that force over a longer range. We struggled with this more than we did the first position. The first position, just a little knee bend and jumping. This one, we wanted the bar to get way out in front of us, or we started slinging it way up instead of just reinforcing what we did, especially at first. Overhead press, again, people may agree with it, but people may disagree with it. In my opinion, if you're going to teach these Olympic movements, you've got to be strong overhead. Otherwise, that shoulder girdle is going to be weak, and you're going to risk somebody hurting a shoulder up top when they absorb that weight. And then again, just another hinging motion to where we can just something else we can reinforce that was a huge thing. This is our on call. But seeing them, and this was just the other day, so it's a little faster than it used to be. But seeing them hinge, be able to pause it, being able to get vertical, I think was really important and really helped in our overall seeing these guys progress from where that used to take us, those 3 movements would take us 4 minutes to get through. We're kind of able to rifle through them now because they know what to expect and they're able to feel those positions more. The next one is going to be where I turn them loose a little bit and we kind of teach like what it's going to feel like where they have to correct themselves in the middle of the movement. Same kind of thing, we're jump shrugging. Again, these are all my 8th graders, but they're able to go now. So they're able to fix it. They're able to kind of cue themselves up. Something I saw the other day that was pretty cool was I had guys coaching each other through it. They weren't just like focused on what they were doing. They were kind of watching from the rack and saying, all right, like, hey, I think you need to do this more. You need to do this more. So that was really cool to see because they're getting comfortable coaching each other up. I think that's as a coach, super cool thing to see is when they start coaching themselves because they've heard the cue enough to where it's sticking with them and they know what to look for in each other. The next one is just another progression of our snatch before we go into the full squat and we're catching in the bottom. I have them pause up top in that power position and then sit it down. So they learn and then they go sit. They're able to do that, understand where they are, stick that power, and then sit into it because some of them rush that squat so fast that they're all off balance, and I really don't want our administrators yelling at me because a weight went through the drywall. So, and that took a while to get to. We did not we didn't snatch and catching in the bottom for a long time because I had to teach them how to overhead squat first and how to overhead squat with some weight. A lot of people can overhead squat with a PVC pipe. Whole different animal once you start getting a little bit of weight in your hands. And then the next video I'm going to show real quick is going to be one of our kids connecting the snatch in the bottom of the squat. This is one of our kids that picked it up super easy. So he's able to control it. I told him right after this set, I'd like to see him control that squat a little better. But as an 8th grader, being able to do that, he saw it. After that, he was like, hey, I did this. He's like, hey, coach, I rushed it getting in the bottom of my squat. I'm glad. I'm glad you notice and you feel where you messed up. But that's one of my kids. He's a real gifted athlete. So he's able to feel it a little more than some of my other guys, and that's all right. Some of the things I've learned through this, like I said earlier, the RDL is the hardest part to teach. It's the most difficult. I think kids, it just doesn't make sense. I use the cue, stop trying to tie your shoes, because that's all what they look like when they go to hinge. They fold down, they look like a candy cane. Instead of keeping that upper back tight, that knee bend and pushing their hips back and loading up those hamstrings. Especially early on, positions are not going to look perfect. As a coach, I know you want it to look perfect, and we want everything to flow well, and we want everything to look good. And as football coaches, you guys, I coach football. Like, you always want the read done the right way. You always want the drop to look perfect. You always want the throw to look good. But in the weight room, it's a completely different thing trying to teach this, because a lot of kids have been throwing a football or a baseball for a long time. Like, you're introducing a whole new skill to them that early on it looks funky. And I think that's something that I had to wrap my head around was I know what these positions are supposed to look like, and they don't know that. So they're trying to learn what I'm looking for. So it was a lot of stopping. Hey, this is what I'm looking for. They go and fix it. Nope, still not right. Do this. just queuing them up. It's a lot of coaching on the front end. It's a ton of coaching on the front end. That's why if I'm able to go and I'm able to video some of my guys, it's really easy now to do. In the beginning, it was not, because I was not going to have my phone out sitting there trying to cue seventh graders Olympic lifting. So my phone a lot of times was down. Luckily, these videos and pictures the other day, my wife was in the weight room for a few minutes. She works at the school too. So I was like, hey, you want to film for a couple minutes? And so she was able to come in and do this for me. So I was able to even push that off a little bit. So that helped a lot. But understanding that it's not going to be perfect and it's going to take a ton of coaching. And I think people shy away from Olympic lifting because it does take a long time. It's similar to teaching kids how to deadlift with a straight bar. It takes a lot of time for them to understand what that's supposed to feel like. And if you take your time with it, it's another skill they can learn. But if you want it to look perfect and you want to pull big weight right away, I would more so say don't teach it. Teach a weighted jump, teach med ball stuff. We do med ball stuff too. We do plyos, we do all that, but it's just another tool in the toolbox that you'll have. Something that helped with us, like our kids wanted to do it. They took ownership of it, and we would, have a rain day or something like that. And they'd be like, hey, coach, can we work some of our technique? Yeah, let's do it. Those kind of things help when they enjoy doing it. And then, like I said earlier, my ninth graders right now are killing me because they just want to put more weight on. And they're strong kids. But on our Olympic lifting, they're just hey, coach, can I put more weight? Stop. No, like I've had to start capping them and saying, hey, you're not going over 95 pounds today. You're not going over 115 because they're trying to load it up, and we're starting to see some degradation of movement pattern that I'm not willing to sacrifice. So learning to cap those guys, and like I said, that like coaching eye or the art of coaching is kind of where that comes in. And the most important thing is, like, if you stick with it, they're going to get it eventually, because going back to that sponge mentality, they're going to pick it up. They're good athletes. They're good movers still at that age, the large majority of them. They still move well. They're still soaking things up. We're willing to run 9,000 slant routes with receivers at that age, but we're not willing to stick with a process of we're going to learn this new skill. And I think that's the most important thing, is like, understand it is going to get better. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. They're not going to look like that, like newborn giraffes forever. The only other thing I would probably add to this, thinking about it right now, is kind of what I said. It's just another tool. I know there's coaches that don't do any Olympic lifting, and they still produce really good athletes in the weight room. There's some coaches that all they do is Olympic lift. There's some coaches that teach it different than I do, and that's all right. And I'm all about it. I try to watch those guys as much as I can. I love seeing people get sparked up on Olympic lifting and weighted jumping on Twitter. It cracks me up because there's people so strongly like, no, you need to Olympic lift. And it's like, well, if I take a trap bar and I jump with it and I absorb it the same way, what's the difference? I'm catching it low rather than catching it on my shoulder. To me, sometimes I'll interchange those. Like I said, over the summer, I didn't have a ton of time to Olympic lift just with the regulations and policies we had. So I was like, all right, like, what are we going to do? We're going to jump, and we're going to jump with some weight, and we'll clean once a week, but we'll still pull from the floor. We'll deadlift. We'll still get that force development that I'm looking for. I think that's a super important thing to understand, is it's Olympic lifting for sport performance is just another tool. Just put it in your toolbox. If you're not comfortable teaching it yet, don't. But work at it yourself and practice it, because you need to feel those positions to be able to coach them through it. I think Clip is next. Yeah, Clip is next. This is a kid. He was in one of the pictures earlier, but he kind of – this is what I go back to, like, they'll understand it. So does a great job. Performs the lift, looks good, resets his grip, and then he misses. And he feels it. And I was like, okay, this is good. Fixes it right away. Misses again, resets, fixes it. Came up to me right after that clip and said, Coach, I was rushing my pull, wasn't I? Yep, absolutely what you were doing. You were trying to rush it. You're trying to sprint through it. Take your time. And that was probably one of my biggest like coaching wins I've had lately, is him being able to say, like, this is what I did. And I thought that was huge, him being able to feel that position. He's heard me say it enough times, and he fixed it himself. Just kind of wrapping up. This is all my contact info. Text message or a call, I'm all about. If I don't answer, it's probably because I'm with a group. Twitter, Instagram are the same. There's my email. If anybody wants to talk about anything strength related, conditioning related, performance related, I'm all about it. If you want to talk about sports and Joe Kelly getting suspended for 8 games, I'm all about it. So anytime, shoot me an email, connect with me. Again, I appreciate you having me and let me present on something of this topic. So.
All right, go ahead and unshare that screen, Coach. While Coach does that, we will prepare to go take a commercial break. And when we come back from our break, I've got a handful of questions for you, Coach. Excellent job.
Thanks.
Hey guys, Brian Klee here, defensive coordinator and offensive line coach at Coloma High School in Southwest Michigan. Big fan of Chief Pigskin and Film Friday. Want to thank Coach Nate Elbaugh for all he's done to give us coaches a chance to continue to grow as coaches and in this profession, to collaborate and interact with each other. The game of football teaches so many life lessons. Probably the simplest to me that I realized as a 9th grader is you're going to get knocked down in the game of football. Even if you're the biggest, strongest dude on the field, at some point you're going to get knocked down. And the game of football teaches you as long as you get back up for that next rep, as long as you keep on learning from every snap out there on the practice field or the game field, you're going to get better. You're going to find a way to eventually be successful. And young men need that today, maybe more than ever. We have a tremendous responsibility to help young men develop at a very crucial time in their lives and an opportunity to make a big time impact. And I really believe in our program philosophies of football is the vehicle that we're using to teach young men that if they put forth uncommon levels of effort, energy, and enthusiasm, they're going to put themselves in position to be successful, not only on the field, but more importantly, in life.
Coach, man, I really enjoyed that. I can't tell you how cool it is for me. My current teaching job, I'm in a middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Can't tell you how cool it is for me to see those young cats working like that and already getting into positions like a quality front rack. That excites me because I know in my current position, I mean, we got guys that are juniors that have been doing this a long time and still struggle to get into that front rack. It's like everything. I feel like if you don't, it can only be a result of a program that's not a focus for them, right? And so I love to see, you can see where your focus is, just like that kid at the end, man, how cleanly those elbows were forward. I have found, so I kind of kicked this show off and because I wanted to know more. But now you're my 3rd guy we've listened to, and I'm getting super interested in this. I'm sitting there going, maybe I could go into this, man. This is a lot of fun. Tell me, is there any difference in the way you train males and females?
I don't train them any differently. I think you have to talk to them differently, especially at a school like I'm at right now where girls athletics didn't lift before I got there.
Oh, at all?
At all. They would do our soccer team. would go. There's a health plex that they would go to and kind of do some stuff in the summer, or it'd be like coach led, but it wasn't anything super structured. And so and they don't love it. Like a teenage girl, you tell a teenage girl like, hey, you're going to lift weights, and they all automatically think they're going to look like Arnold. It's like, hey, easy. Like, you're not going to look like that, I promise. And so I wouldn't train them any differently. My female athletes right now, pretty much all on the varsity level, and trying to get that to trickle down, because with them, I think if we can get the varsity girls lifting and they see the varsity girls lifting, interested in picking up in the weight room. So no, short answer, no. Like, I don't train them any different. We do a lot of ACL prevention stuff, a lot of glute strengthening anyway, a lot of post chain stuff with my guys. So in my philosophy, I should be able to kind of plug and play programs depending on not necessarily the sport, but the season in which the sport's in.
Okay.
I hope that answers.
I saw the picture of your kids in the overhead squat position. I mean, it's super impressive. And they were middle schoolers. Actually, my son was right here. While you were speaking, I told him, get over here and look at this position. My son's a junior. He's very strong, excellent cleaner, excellent. He doesn't, I mean, honestly, he's got solid form and he lifts a lot of weight, but he struggles to overhead squat badly. And I don't know, maybe it's something within his shoulder, so he can't seem to get in the position. So for his sake, I'm asking this selfishly, but in general, is it common to get a kid who's whatever can't quite get there? What do we work on? Is it shoulder flexibility? Is it just more reps?
I think one thing is just getting them in the position, because eventually it's gonna get better doing it. But at a little more micro scale, thoracic extension, being able to actually keep your chest up while your hands are overhead is super important. So just almost a great cue that, again, Andrew Christie, this was a long time ago when I was coaching at Methodist. We would tell them to open the window and then push your head through. And just being able to get to this position helps, where that bar is going to be directly over your head. I think is the thoracic extension part is probably the biggest thing. Learning how to actually move your scaps and squeeze your shoulder blades down is super important. And then, like I said, just getting in the position and being able to feel what it feels like. Because if somebody struggles with that thoracic extension, I got a good friend of mine, and he's a strength coach, and he is terrible in a snatch because his thoracic extension is awful. We'll just fire up anytime we overhead squat or snatch. And he's like, and it's just a matter of, well, some people anatomically aren't going to be able to get there, especially as an adult. But I think as a kid, like I said, that skill development aspect is so quick and skill acquisition is so fast that they're going to be able to pick it up relatively quickly with more reps.
Coach, you had said in there that we do a lot of tempo work. Again, knowing that I'm a rookie, I'm not familiar with what tempo work is in the weight room. Could you explain it to me?
Yeah. So there's 3 phases of a movement. The eccentric portion of a movement, the isometric, and then the concentric. So if like in a squat, I think is the easiest way to understand it. That eccentric is going to be on the way down. So in a tempo work, or the tempo we had in there, it was a 2-1-2. So they're going to go 2 seconds on the way down. They're going to pause for 1 in that isometric and squeeze that position, and then stand up on a 2 count as well. So that eccentric part of the movement, working a lot of post chain there, being able to slow their body down. That isometric, I tell them, especially in the isometric, like, own your position. Own that position, because that's where you're going to get a big pause. And depending on the time of year or the athlete, off season is an awesome time to do eccentric work. Fantastic time. But what I want to do, if I'm playing on a Friday night, would I want to do like a eccentric squat on a Thursday? No shot, because you're going to get fried. It's a high CNS stress that I would stay away from. unless you're a long time away from competition.
Okay. Next question.
Mhm.
How do you handle, or do you have any boards within your room, like rewarding, motivating? What are they have like we try to get this many kids that are cleaning this many pounds, or like what are the big rewards within your weight room? Just curious if you have any at all, or if that's important to you.
I think it's important to the kids. And I think my middle school kids and my ninth graders, they're all about like, hey, they find somebody they want to compete with, like in there. So the kid in the last clip, he has a twin. So like they're constantly like, and it's easy to motivate him. I'm like, hey, John's got 65 pounds on the bar, and Jack's like, I'm gonna put 70. I'm like, all right, like, or like, hey, John did this many on his last set of squat, and all right, I'm gonna get more. With our middle school kids, we don't really have a board or anything like that. I think they used to do something like that before I got there. We have a varsity record board. We have an all-time board, and we have a season board for our varsity kids that has all the performance indicators, bench, squat, clean, dead, vertical, broad, 5, 10, 5, and 40. And sometimes you're not able to test all of them. This summer, I wasn't able to test a clean, or I didn't feel comfortable testing a clean with our limited amount of time. So we tested a squat on a workout. We tested a bench in a workout. We tested a deadlift in a workout. We timed some 40s because they love running their 40s. We're a pretty fast team. So our kids are always trying to, hey, coach, what's my 40? That's going to get a lot easier because, like I said, I'm fortunate. We just got a Broward timing system. So we're going to be able to do that way more often and way easier. So the kids are pretty juiced up about that. And middle school kids I've never seen kids more excited than when you say, hey, we're going to go run 40s. You got middle school kids like sprinting outside to run. So I think it's good to give them that stuff, but we don't have like a board necessarily for them.
I was wondering, is there ever, I mean, I've been to a lot of weight rooms now, just whether it's through my own career as a coach or it's been through Chief Pigskin as I travel. For you, is there ever a time, maybe with the varsity guys, where it's just music's on and they see the workout and they go do it? Or is it always this is on call, or something, the next set is on call? Like how do you manage it with, let's say, the most elite group you have?
They go. So we operate through Train Heroic. Again, we're fortunate. I'm fully aware this is not a norm in the high school level. I wish it would get more to be a norm, where people invest in strength conditioning or athletic performance. But we operate through Train Heroic. And at this point, my varsity guys, like my varsity baseball and my varsity football guys, those are my biggest or my highest training age kids. They see it in their app. We answer our readiness questionnaire and we're rolling. And if they have a question on something, I'll stop them and I'll say, hey, this is what this is. But my varsity groups, like music's on and we're rolling. That lift and my middle school or junior high lifts look a lot different. Because there is an aspect in our varsity of like, hey, we have to get stronger. Like, and we can't just get stronger by happenstance. Like there has to be a very regimented program, very strict periodization that we're trying to get. In the middle school kids, there's not a big rush for me. My 7th graders, 8th graders, even my 9th graders. Now we'll hit the gas a little bit with the 9th graders, getting them ready for varsity football come the spring. And so they'll start feeling what that's supposed to be like, what that varsity lift is. But my 7th, 8th graders, and then my 6th graders in the spring, them, it's all like music's low. It's all teaching, because if I'm able to cue something and the music's high, then I can only talk to one kid. If the music's low and I cue something, they all hear it. And so it's almost that collateral damage kind of thing, is like they're able to hear it and they're like, okay, I need to focus on that because I don't know if he's talking to me or not. So
All right, man. Last question I have for you is more of a general question that happened to come to mind while I was speaking to you. Do you spot the clean? Because
No,
I've seen that argument on Twitter.
we do not. I've seen it done. I've been in a program where it was done. We don't. We teach our kids how to bail, and it's not always pretty. They do not always bail pretty. Like I
Yeah.
had a kid drop it, hit his knee, scuffed his knee up. It's like, hey, is everything all right? He's like, yeah, I'm good. We don't spot it. I think sometimes, especially if you're catching it in the bottom, if a kid comes and like watches on that squat portion, I don't think that's the most terrible thing in the world, but I think a lot can go wrong if you're spotting a clean.
Mm-hmm.
There's more that can go wrong than can go right. So just teach them how to bail. I teach my kids like, hey, it's okay to miss a lift. Like it's all right because it gives us something to shoot for.
Yeah.
Miss it well, and we'll get back after it next week.
Okay. Fair enough, man. I'm glad I asked. I think that is the last of the questions on here, man. I had a blast listening to you. And again, super encouraged just to see. And I love that you used all your video and pictures of your youngest cats. You know,
Yeah.
It was so cool to see just the youngest doing it and the youngest getting. So the people that we saw on video today, how long have they been doing this?
A year. They've been with me for a year now.
They're a year in.
Yep, they're a year in, and I kind of like some of my juniors and seniors do not look as good as these dudes do. But I think it goes back to like we have to get better with those older dudes. Like some of them want to go play college, and we'll slow them down in the spring a little bit and reteach their movements for those seniors, make sure they're ready to go. But I'm also not against I got a kid that can't catch it. Like he had a wrist issue and just hasn't necessarily gotten over it. Clean's messing with him all the time. So we trap bar jump. He doesn't even clean pull. He trap bar jumps because we learned we can get a bigger force output by doing that, and we can load it up a little more than him just doing a clean shrug. So let's do it. Like I'm not against pulling it off, especially with those older dudes, and saying like, hey, it's not worth it for you to try to clean because it's more about, hey, you have to get ready we kick off Friday. I don't need your wrist hurting because of something you did in the weight room. So.
Right. Man, Coach, really liked it. I hope everybody will go check out Coach on Twitter. Look him up. Tell us again, at Coach
_ G Adams.
There you go.
Coach _ G Adams.
Look him up on Twitter, guys. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Power Hour. And look him up on Twitter. Look us up on Twitter if you haven't already. That's at the Chief Pigskin. And we'll see you here next Monday for week number 4 of 12 of Power Hour.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.